Welcome, everyone. This is Mike and Elonzo, and we're going to have another episode of The Head in the Clouds, something that's really important to actually talk about, and I'm excited to be here with you today.
Yeah.
People come to us and, they ask us for cloud architect career advice, cloud engineer career advice, how to get their first cloud architect job, cloud architect training, solution architect training, cloud engineer training, and any kind of cloud computing training, really. But there's some things that are so critical for your tech career that they're so fundamental. Sometimes people don't even think about them. And we're going to bring that up tonight. We're going to have a discussion on why reading is so critical to your cloud architect career, your cloud engineering career, your tech career in general. Before we get into the free things we're doing to help you build your career, and some of these things are pretty exciting. On Thursday, we have our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar, and people will be coming all around the world. And we'll tell them how to translate their current experience to the new career that they desire so the manager can see them as experienced. We'll talk about what hiring managers want and the perfect employee to increase your chances of getting hired. We'll tell you what needs to be on your resume so you can skip those HR auto rejections and see the hiring manager. We'll teach you how to get to the hiring manager, how to make hiring managers even come to you, how to get hired. We'll say exactly what to learn, what certifications build your career versus which ones hurt your career, all free on Thursday. And in October, well, we're going to do our special version of the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. We will cover from the fundamentals to 80% of the Certified Solution Architect Professional. And we're going to make sure you understand what the concepts are and what it is so you understand it. And it's not going to be like a normal certification course with PowerPoint slides with blah, 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 blah in the background where you get a headache after 30 seconds. I wouldn't wish that torture on anyone. We will do live instruction for 20 minutes. And to make sure you understand it, we'll answer your questions for 20 minutes like a real classroom, live and free. And guess what? Right after that, we're going to do an AWS networking course. Now, the AWS Advanced Networking is too basic. Let's be fair. It's kind of like an intro to junior level networking, but we're going to teach it different. We're going to teach IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting. We're going to teach switching. We'll talk about WAN technologies and WAN clouds and virtual links and virtual networks, which we'll get there. Probably even get into, we'll definitely spend hours on BGP, maybe even talk about MPLS-based WANs and software-defined networking. I'm going to teach it. I'm one of the original Cisco certified internet experts. Spent 20 plus years in networking. So by the time you understand it, you're going to know networking, the networking that you need to know, not just the basic intro level AWS Advanced Networking. And I promise I'll make it simple for you because I've been making it simple for executives, architects, engineers, and training people for over 20 years in networking, and you're going to have fun, and it's going to be all free. Now, next week, guess what? We're going to bring in some special guests. As cloud architects and tech leaders and managers, your business acumen is critical. So guess what? We have 2 doctoral business school professors coming in to talk about working in reality as well as helping to educate you in business acumen, all free. So lots of free things coming. Ivan Tamba, one of my favorite students that came to me last year, 24 years old, working as a food server while going to school, driving 90 minutes a day per school, got his first job at AWS last year, even before he graduated college. And they waited for him 6 months to graduate college before his first day because they loved him so much. He's going to come back and talk to you after 6 months what it's like to be cloud hired at AWS. And I don't want you to miss that as well. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And, tomorrow, another day this week, I'll be releasing another magazine article. So, please follow me on LinkedIn. So we can do anything we can. We'll be making thought leadership posts, career posts almost every day to help you build your best cloud computing career. So let's talk about it. So let's start with Elonzo today. We're going to do things on its own. Elonzo, how you doing today?
Doing great, Mike. It's always good to be here with our family and friends at Go Cloud Careers. So yet another week of talking about really great subjects and topics with the community. So I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
Let's go. Why don't you get go? So I'm going to say that reading is so fundamental to your career. Yeah. I will tell you how reading has affected my life in ways that you would not think.
Yeah.
How it's enabled me to progress in my career so much faster than others had. How when I had no experience, I had the job of people that had 10 to 15 years worth of experience. And within 6 months, how I literally was a principal consulting architect at organizations throughout the world, consulting to other architects that had been in the industry for 15 or 20 years, and reading was a big part of that. But we're going to start with Elonzo, because I usually kick it off. And now, Elonzo, talk about reading and your career and why reading is so critical.
Okay, first off, I am an avid reader. I have not, just like Mike, I don't have time to read as much as I'd like, but one of the things that I really enjoy about reading, because number one, I love vocabulary. I love to articulate. I love to communicate, and I'm always looking for better ways to share my thoughts and be able to communicate shared visions and be able to exchange them as well. So based on that, it helps me to not only creatively understand each person that I'm communicating with, but it helps me to come up with new ideas based upon their thought processes and being able to read that as well. So when I read, I'm able to, especially when it comes to white papers or when cloud architects are executing their thoughts on how they're going to be able to leverage solutions for people, it's great to not be able to understand where they're coming from without interjecting your opinions, because reading gives you another viewpoint on how people are observing their environment, observing their solutions or challenges, especially during the cloud architecture when they're trying to otherwise examine the challenges and headwinds that customers have. So it's some of those things that I really enjoy. And also when it comes to reading, it reduces my stress level because it helps me to come up and it helps me to relieve the things that I'm thinking about. So because it helps me to put my mind in other areas of thought, other areas of creativity, other areas of opinions, even if it doesn't align with what I'd like. But it gives me again a unique perspective on what people's stances are, and it creates a form of empathy because of that. Because when it comes to looking at other people or reading other people's viewpoints, you can understand their emotions as well. You can understand what drives them, what they are trying to articulate, but may not be able to have the vocabulary, or they may be missing some forms of information that inhibit them from sharing other thoughts about themselves. So that helps me to, empathize and be able to okay, well, I know your frustrations with this particular technology and how you're losing opportunities here and there. Let's discuss it. Let's sit down and have a really great discussion over a period of time to drive these problems down, kind of drive the solutions, and being able to exchange how we can do this together. And that brings us to the next point, which is solidarity. When you're reading and interacting and exchanging these ideas, it creates kinship. It creates more of I'm more relatable to those who may be opposed to my position, or even more so when those who are finding my position. So through that, again, is the next step, which includes perseverance. You're reading those challenges. You're starting to communicate and interchange ideas. You're starting to empathize with that particular person or group of people. You start to align, and otherwise, you start to, over time, persevere, learn to respect each other's ideas. And so that all stems from reading, but reading is a foundational exercise. It's a foundational skill that other people need to focus on, because when you think you know it all and you skim over the reading material, you're going to miss out on a lot, which could cost a lot of lost opportunities as a cloud architect, lost opportunities as an intellectual, as a professional, and also in your public and private life if you're not able to readily read and understand other people's ideas. So that's my stance on it. But how has it transformed my career? I'll tell you some good ideas, and I'll tell you the good side. There's been, when it comes to my old life as being a creative professional, I had to communicate, just like a cloud architect, creative briefs, cloud architects. They have to come up with a list of criteria that they have to respond or otherwise answer, or come up with the solutions with a prospective client. And you have to do that interchange of reading and being able to articulate that as well. And so when you don't read, you miss out on details, which could be valuable towards you closing down that particular project, or not project, but those opportunities to increase revenue for your company. So that was an opportunity that I did where I was able to read. I found some really great material that a lot of people missed out on. I was able to leverage those solutions to something that was forward for the company. Now, on the flip side, when you don't read, you could incorporate technology aid the company does not want, never ask for. It wastes time, it wastes resources, and quite frankly, irritates the leadership because they feel like by you not listening through reading or paying attention through reading, you're not taking them seriously. It degrades the relationship, and all of the points that I mentioned before get thrown out the window. What about you, Mike?
I got a couple of things, and I want to talk about my tech career, but I'm going to start with something before that. Elonzo or Chow, both Bo Williamson and I did multicast consulting, and I want you to remind me of that in case I forget it, which I probably will. But I want you to know where I come from. So many years ago, I used to practice internal medicine. Now, in one summer session, I was forced to read this book along with 3 other courses in a 6-week summer session. Now, when you looked at this book, no, it didn't have pretty pictures in it. No, it didn't have big text. And how long was this book? And I'm going to tell you what my professor said to me. So 2,863 pages. This is one of my 3 books over the summer session. Now, I remember the kids in the class were like, that's a lot to learn. And I went, 3 days reading. And they were like, no, that's going to be impossible to read. And, we had a midterm. And the student said, the student asked the teacher, what could be in it? And she says, whatever's in the book. And they said, but that's crazy. And she says, no, it's crazy to think what's in that book is not important. This is how you're going to prescribe medications for the rest of your career. And she says, she reaches out to me because she knows that, I'm pretty hardcore. And she says, Michael, dear, she says, if you don't know what's in that book, what's going to happen? I said, somebody's going to die. And she said, exactly, you're going to kill somebody. So read the book. Now, that hit me early on my career. Well, how important was reading? I got to tell you, that was then. And then, out of nowhere, I went from practicing internal medicine to tech. Now, that was not easy. I'm going to tell you along the way. First, I had to find a system to get employers to look past people with no experience, which I did. Then I had to figure out exactly what employers wanted me to need. And look, I'd spent like $20,000 in worthless certification training courses back in 1996, mind you. So that's like $75,000, $80,000 of today's money. And nobody cared, because nobody cared about certification. They cared about competency. But I didn't know that at the time. The certification providers tried to sell me certifications. I wanted to be a techie, so I did it. And then I found out what hiring managers needed, what they really wanted. And I knew where I was at. And I went, okay. And I took those certification courses, but they were all about configuring. Anybody can configure. I can teach an 8-year-old how to configure in 5 minutes. I've done it. But the what and the why and the how was the more important. Why are you doing this thing? And then when I found out what they needed, I put myself to a reading test. Now, within 6 months of the time I took my first job, I was a Cisco certified internet expert. And I want to show you what the reading list was, just so you get a fair idea of exactly what it actually looks like to really have to read for your career. Most people are not used to this. So this is what it took like. This was my CCIE reading list. Chow, can you share that so everybody can see it? This is a typical Cisco certified internet experts reading list. That's it. So in a matter of not working in tech, working in internal medicine, this isn't my list, but it's another CCIE's list. It's a perfect average list. Mine was at least as bad, trust me. Mine included all the requests for comments and all the internet, as well as IEEE things related to the Ethernet standards and whatever. But that was normal. What did I do? I locked myself in a room for 6 months, read 1,000 pages a day. 6 months later, I was a Cisco certified internet expert. Now, that was the beginning of my tech career. The beginning of my tech career. Look, the CCIE is an intro-level cert. By the time you do that, you'll actually understand the network and how to build it and how to configure it, and you know the complexities. And after that, that's when you get to put on big projects, the kind of projects where nobody's ever done it before, and you got to learn. And it's all dependent upon your fundamentals. Now, what do you do When you're now a big architect, an enterprise architect, a cloud architect, a network architect, a senior level network engineer, you read, and you read. There is never a day where you're not going to read. You can't just go to YouTube and watch a video.
No.
You're going to need depth. You're going to have to read. And you're going to need this kind of competency. So reading enabled me to go from medicine to tech. And I did it in 6 months. And the first job I had, they wanted 10 plus years experience. I did it in 6 months. That's nothing because I could read. And I'll tell you when else reading helped me, and then we're going to go back to the career thing. Many of you don't know how badly I was injured. I was invited to be part of a martial arts training session in Israel to try to study Krav Maga. I studied Krav Maga, Kempo, Jiu-Jitsu, Taekwondo, and Shotokan Karate for my entire life. I went to Israel. I shattered my foot, part of the training. But I'm tough, right? And probably a little bit stupid sometimes when it comes to my own body. I taped it up, iced my foot, and trained on a broken foot for 2 weeks. Because how often do you get to go to Israel and train with the world's best Krav Maga people? I wasn't going to waste that experience. So I got back, and I had such a neuropathy, I was told I'd never walk again. Doctors talked about amputating my leg, and it was situations that it was pretty severe. What did I do? I started reading. I went back through my medical textbooks and read them again. And then I was researching reflex sympathetic dystrophy, like 3 doctors in the world that knew about it. And one had written a book, so I'm reading his book. I'm going back to pathophysiology to determine how to get blood vessels open. I'm coming up with creative, collaborative things. Again, 500 pages of reading every single day. Now, it took me 8 years of physical therapy and it still takes me 3 hours a day to be able to sit in a chair. But you know what? The reading helped me get there. So reading is there. But let me bring it back to your technology career. If you have the plan and somebody puts a plan out in front of you and you don't read it, you're not going to get there. Now, I was an engineer for a little while before I moved into architecture. I prefer the architecture world of design, percent, and sales than the hands-on engineering. But I have tremendous respect for the engineers, and I know what their life is like. And, with every architecture, you got to be reading. Vendors' documentation, protocols. I mean, which vendors you're going to deal with, which application can do things. You're going to be reading, RFIs and RFPs and RFQs that are hundreds of pages long just to get requirements to even think about your design. You're going to be writing 100 pages documents, and you can't write if you don't read well. Reading polishes your writing skills. It polishes your communication skills, but it teaches you how to think. When you get something on social media, who's the source of the information? Is it Fred Zantz Martha, as one of my professors used to say? Or is it the physician that invented the behavioral therapy technique, for example, like cognitive behavioral therapy, Albert Ellis, David Burns? They're authoritative sources. How do I know? I did my clinical rotations under David Burns in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. It was really great. I got to learn from the source. Changed the way I treated patients forever. But guess what? He had a book. And the first day on that clinicals, he said to everybody, read my book. We read it. And then he said, read my next book. And we read it. Because why? It was the most efficient means of transferring information. Now, I'll tell you what, when the world used to read, before they got, I don't want to say it's lazy, but, only wanted something that was 2 words long and would text people. Like, I have a friend that's young. He helps me translate. Somebody says a message with IDK. I didn't know what it was. BRB. I didn't know what it was. Because I communicate and write using full plain language. I'm a simple person. I don't use acronyms. Acronyms create errors. But, while we're at it, so let's think about this. I built my career. I got noticed initially by writing a document on Intro to Multicast. It was a document that explained IP multicast technology. Now, let's talk about how complicated this was. There were about 5 people in the world that were experts on multicast, and somehow I was one of them. There were 2 of us that wrote most of the documentation on multicast. Cisco had an amazing character. His name was Bo Williamson. Many would consider him the world's foremost authority on multicast. We all miss him. He was a huge contribution to multicast. And then there was me. He wrote a 400-page book, 500-page book that explained everything. I wrote a 40-page document that explained everything in simple, executive, easy-to-friendly terms. My document was so well received that I had to travel 200,000 miles that year discussing the document. And literally speaking, 20-some years ago, I have friends at a major networking organization that were using that document that I wrote 20 years ago, written by a competitor, to troubleshoot large multicast networks. Because I knew how to read. I used to write so much. And reading really did it. And I remember when it was a great company that was using my documents, it kind of got to come back to me because somebody worked there that I helped get hired. And he's like, Mike, we're all using the reference that you wrote at Riverstone Networks 20 years ago, even though the company doesn't exist anymore. And I went, wow, that's cool. That's the power of reading. But here's the thing. Bo and I were a little bit different. Most of you guys know me as this soft, cuddly, soft skills, emotionally intelligence trained person. That was me. Bo Williamson. Not so much. Extraordinary capabilities. But I'm soft and cuddly, not Bo. Here's what would happen. When people would do IP multicast, and you'd go to a conference and I'd see Bo present, he was an amazing guy. Total respect. And someone would ask a silly question that was in his book. He'd say, RTFB. Read the F stood for something and then book. I won't use that in my language, but that was a response. RTFB. I watched hours and hours of him present. RTFB. Well, how about this IGMP joint group message? RTFB. And he did it. And in those days, I never understood why. Well, I actually get upwards of 100 emails a day asking the same question that I've actually have a written answer to, and nobody actually read it. And look, I got a team that's happy to respond to the same cut and paste message all day long. But here's the thing. If the person's not reading it, they're not going to learn. And if we don't learn, we don't grow. And if we don't grow, we never get to our goals. But let's put it into more practical terms. I would tell you that if you read 5 minutes of documentation on the engineering side, it'll save you 5 hours of troubleshooting. How many people read the instructions? I get a cat tree come to the house. It's got like 12 parts. I look at it and I'm like, oh no. And then I got to read the instructions. My buddy comes over. He doesn't read the instructions. He's got parts upside down and sideways. They're all mixed. Now, he fixes it in the end. He gets it right because he's mechanical by nature and it's instinctive to him. But he takes the part, puts it together, and figures all the parts out like a puzzle. But imagine reading the instructions, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Now, even if I read the instructions with my hand, well, I don't do build stuff anymore with my hands because of the injuries of it. But, the point is like, even if I read the instructions and I don't know what I'm doing, it's probably still faster than an expert that doesn't read the instructions. Read the instructions. But let's talk about where you get your reading material.
Yeah.
I saw an academy that was making their students blog about how to set up a Linux web server. And they put together these 30-page documents when the whole content was sudo apt-get install Apache or yum install Apache. It could have been summarized in 4 words. The people that wrote that way didn't read enough, so they didn't know what to write. But even still, Elonzo, would you read somebody's Medium blog on how to install an Apache server, or did you go to the Ubuntu Linux page or the Red Hat page and learn how to do it from the professionals that do it all day, every day?
I'm going to go to the source. It's like trying to get your instructions from Wikipedia.
Yes, exactly. Go to the source.
Yeah.
So it's not just reading, it's knowing what to read. It's knowing when to read to see if you're being manipulated by the way the reader's writing something. What the balance of the reads, what's the tone, is it believable? And then as architects, we're engineers, I don't care. We write a lot.
And wouldn't you think, Mike, that through reading, you'll start to learn, like you said, because the more you read, the more you're able to trust the sources consistently.
Yes.
Those that are going against the grain tend not to, by instinct and practice of reading, you'll be able to understand who's believable and who's not.
Who's believable? And I'll tell you what, when I switched careers, let me get this book, and I'm probably There we go. It's my favorite book. I always share this book because it was short, well written, and changed my life. So if you go to too much university time, and I like universities, but if you spend too much time in school, it will change your way of thinking. Sometimes in a great way, sometimes in a not so great way. Well, when I did my MBA program, which was my second master's degree, we were taught to speak in big buzzwords. I remember it like it was yesterday. I initially was a network architect, a network engineer. Then I was a technical architect, which is really an engineer with an architect title. They don't know what to do with you, so they call you a technical architect. And then I got my first big architecture job. And my boss says, Mike, you should have created a council of chief information officers. So you can ask them twice a year what they want in the next generation of products. So we can hear from my customers so we know what to develop. Talk about an architect dream opportunity. So I was thrilled. And I scheduled some really great leaders and speakers to come in, executives across different technology bases. It was really a cool presentation. And then I gave my presentation. Fresh out of business school, 18 certifications along the way, which was a mistake. And now I give my speech. And I talk about everything in complex language and lingo. I was so proud of myself that I noticed in the hallway, here's what I saw in the executive, or on their Blackberries, or, and I was proud of myself, but I knew there was something wrong. I was lucky enough that day to have my mentor, who's now my executive coach. And I asked her, hey, what did I do? What do you think? And she says, Michael, can I send you some books? And she sent me my favorite book, Why Business People Speak Like Idiots. And it taught me the ways to communicate more properly. It was there. Now, when I first got that really high-end executive job, I grew up with limited means. Now, all of a sudden, I got to fit in with CEOs. So I was buying books on how to be a gentleman because I wasn't taught these skills growing up. I didn't come from money. I didn't know even what to say in a room with executives. So here I am reading books on what to do. But it was constant content. There's never been a day where I didn't read. Now, I used to read 3 books a week. Now, starting this company, I had no idea what it was like to get 400 phone calls, 2,000 emails in a single day, and be on camera and be interviewed by the press constantly and be, preparing for TV, radio interviews, magazine interviews, podcasts. I had no idea what it was like and how many people were going to come out to me and ask for an opinion. And they ask for opinions every day because we're so successful in getting our students hired, and nobody gets students hired as cloud architects without experience, but we do it every week. Yeah. And so, people are constantly, and that's the life. So I don't get to read 3 books a week, but I sure miss it. And if I get to go home to Greece for a month one day, I'm going to be reading the whole time. I need to grow. So, Elonzo, what do you read normally?
Well, I have a lot of versed books. I definitely love tactics when it comes to military strategies, and because I believe that how that's applied on the battlefield can also be applied in the boardroom when it comes to understanding, like Mike always discussed about Sun Tzu, understanding your enemy, understanding yourself. When you're able to do that, those type of strategies are both interchangeably personal and business related. You can use those across the board everywhere. So I love those type of books. I also love nonfiction books. I love fiction books because as a former creative, it gives me an idea to come up with, it gives me new perspectives to come up with new ideas that I never would have thought possible. So I love both sides. I love fiction and nonfiction. I love strategy. I love any type of book that shares about overcoming odds. But I also, one thing that I really love about books and about reading is because no matter what, once you read, you gain that information. Once you return that information, you become more intelligent, more competent. And no matter what goes on in your career, no one can take away from you. You can apply that in so many different opportunities. So to my point, I love Sun Tzu. I love Miyamoto Musashi's The Five Rings, 48 Laws of Power, just to name a few. Helps me really get my mind going, helps me to intellectually attack different challenges in my day-to-day life, be able to realize the benefits of what I bring to the table, met those with challenges that I have so that I can be more efficient, more intelligent, more of a resource to an organization, just like I am here with my teammates, and being able to add more competency therewith. So those are some of the things that I enjoy. What about you, Mike?
I got to tell you, I love military strategy books. I must have read The Art of War 15 times, and each time I still learn something from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'd say my reading has always been purposeful. So I've never read a novel in my entire life. I guess I'm letting that out. Ever. I've never read a novel, and I didn't even completely read the ones that I needed to in high school. That Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer stuff, I actually got the Cliff Notes because I believe it. I don't read nonfiction. It's not interesting to me. So what have I read as following? I've read at least 150 books on psychology. At minimum. Behavioral psychology, clinical psychology, psychology and performance coaching, psychology and education, psychology and how to motivate others, psychology of people and their thinking. And that was a critical part of my career because, as an architect, the better you can connect with people, there's there. And the better you understand people and populations, well, there's that. Now, I also like to invest in things. So I studied two things. Sociology, or the study of people. Must have read 200 books on sociology. I find it fascinating. But sociology explains how people think, how they react, and how they do things. You want to plan investments? Now you know. If you understand people and you understand news cycles, you can see how stuff's going to spike up, and you're going to know when to get in, when to get out, and that's been helpful for me with some of my endeavors throughout my career, as well as which careers to advise people to take by watching the movements, watching what people are all talking about. Okay, get out of this, get into this, because that's helped me, somewhat predict the future. Now, economics, that affects everything.
Yeah.
Must have read 400 books on economics, whether it be classical economic theory or whether it be Keynesian economic theory, because you can't be based on one, you got to know them all. Microeconomics, that's been something I really, really read about. Now, tech, honestly, I'm in the 300,000 page range on reading things in tech. And we're talking networking predominantly, enterprise applications and how they improve the business, cloud things, which is basically networking things, so data center things. And security. Okay, security has been a bit of a passion of mine. So I read a little bit about security. Now, not just IT security, physical security, bodyguarding security, tactical security, all of that. I like economics so much. I just hired an economist to be part of my team. His name is Oforka Anselm. He's working with me right now. One day I'm going to bring him in and he's going to teach macroeconomics because he's an impressive guy. So, there's that. But, those are really my main things. But body language. I'll always reading body language.
Right.
And why was it body language was so critical? Well, you're in a room, right? If you can read the room, you know when to talk, when to shut up. Quite frankly, stop. Change your topic. Your people will tell you everything. You know how to read the room. You can do anything. So, I don't know, another $50 to $75 on reading body language and things. Now, I've never been on an interview for which I didn't get a job. When I was in medicine, for example, when people were saying they're trying to kill me and fight me, I was able to diffuse the situation. All those things that I learned in psychology, sociology, enables me to get my students results that they'd never get on their own. Because we're able to understand the hiring managers and their wants and their needs and be able to produce accordingly. So I got to tell you, those 1,000+ books that I read over the last few years, like 20, all based on performance coaching and medicine, leadership. Yep, that's another thing I read. So it's all me about how to get better. I'm never satisfied with the status quo. I'm always trying to just fight to a little bit like 1% better. No. Yeah. At some point you don't get 1% better because you just reach your capacity and you're trying to stay there. But
Yeah. I'm thinking also, Mike, one of the things that helped me to be better, reading helps you to create discipline.
mm-hmm.
It forces you, even if you don't want to read the documentation or you don't understand the documentation, it's a lot like lifting weights. If
Mm-hmm.
each letter, each syllable, each word, each paragraph, sentence and paragraph helps you to be a stronger reader, helps you to connect the dots, but it helps you to stay focused on one thing and helps you to drive home and force yourself to understand, force yourself to adapt to a different culture, a different way of thinking outside of your norm. So that's one of the things that, even if I may not agree, may not like the genre or the otherwise reading material, it may be boring to me. It may be like reading stereo instructions. It might drive me insane, but it's necessary because it forces me to be a better professional. It forces me to look at, like you said, a better communicator. I'm communicating with my wife, or I'm communicating with my children. I'm communicating with C-suite. I'm communicating with business owners. I'm communicating with staff, communicating with you, communicating with students, understanding the level of communication needed, whether I can pull back, whether they understand, do I need to be more detail oriented, or should I just give them the executive summary and synopsis of the whole situation? Reading and learning those things helps everyone to jump into a situation prepared, instead of having to not learn how to swim and jump off the deep end of the pool and try to figure it out as you're sinking down. So that's another thing that I wanted to iterate about, how reading is important.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Alonzo. So to me, it's and I see there's some questions out there, and I want to make sure we answer some. But reading's important, everyone. I
Yeah.
see Brandon Bowman's out there. Brandon, thank you for your service.
Brandon.
Always appreciate you being here. We miss you, Brandon.
Hey,
Miss
he's
you
in
terribly,
the
Brandon.
gym right now.
So thanks for joining from the gym. Soon.
Definitely.
We're gonna get up to Atlanta one of these days. Gotta get to see you in Atlanta. Much respect for Brandon. We have so many wonderful people, but Brandon, came in, Marine.
Did the work.
He did everything, and he worked so hard to grow better every day. And he did all the reading, I can tell you that. He did all the reading. So somebody brought in a question about not falling asleep while reading. Charlie, you want to bring in that for a minute to ask some questions?
At that.
And I'll give you a little strategy about that, because there's a couple other things that I studied a lot of ridiculously, and I'll tell you why I learned them. So, Mike, I love to read, but I fall asleep while reading. So what do you do to overcome this? So I don't talk about this a lot because I always talk about focus. But when I couldn't walk for 7 years, I had a new focus. My new focus was learning to walk again. So I became something called a strength and conditioning specialist. Those are the folks that only train pro athletes. That's all they do. And I also became a 500-hour yoga instructor. On my mission, I was going to learn how to walk again. So I figured, if I could learn those things, it would help in my physical medicine rehab along with my medical background. And it did. And in meditation, you have to make sure you're in a position that's comfortable enough that it doesn't hurt, but not so comfortable that you fall asleep. So don't lay in bed when you fall asleep. Sit up straight, spine straight, straight up, and find a way to read with good body mechanics. That'll help. Read in the morning when you're waking up, drinking your coffee, and your mind's clear. You've got to be awake to read.
Yeah.
Try some energetic breathing, for example. I know when I start getting into wacky breathing patterns, the people think I'm nuts. And then I bring in my buddy Todd, and I'm going to bring in Todd one day, and he'll do some ujjayi breathing. And he can make himself sweat within 5 minutes while sitting in the chair from the ujjayi breathing. And I learned tactical breathing, which is being taught to military people. And I use it in dangerous, challenging situations or when I'm stressed. And it works. But there's certain breathing forms like Kalabati breathing. that will wake you up. Like there's other breathing, like inhaling for a count of 5 and exhaling like a count of 5, which will put you to sleep. Especially 5.5 seconds inhale and exhale is the best for anxiety, the recent research has studied. So, I don't just get yoga research, I get medical research, and I read and make sure the two things say the same thing, and they actually do. So there's that, but don't be in a too comfortable position when you read.
Right. Yeah. Like even when they talk about, say, for instance, if you're a college student or you were studying late, what are the odds of you retaining that information just before bed when you've expended all your energy focusing on different things? And they said it's about 30% of what you studied late at night is retained for the following morning. So reading over a set course of time, over a consistent, which lends back to the discipline piece. Read for 15 minutes in the morning. Read for 15 minutes before lunch. Read for 15 minutes to an hour, as long as you can, during lunch, during your free time. Go back to that same and go back to that same resource later on in the day. So while you're reading consistently, you're retaining information, creating a sense of discipline, but you're also giving your brain and exercising your brain in a way where you're considering what you've already retained and matching it against new information that you're getting from that resource. And so you're able to, through reading, be able to create, expand your mind in those possibilities. So that's some of the things that help me to expand my vocabulary, focus on the discipline of reading that information, whether I'm interested in it or not, so that I can become competent. So, and there's some, and remember, the assumption is when you read, sometimes you're supposed to enjoy it, and oftentimes, or sometimes, that may not be the case. What is the goal of that reading? Is the reading to be entertaining for you, or is it to find information that is valuable for a project, or is that reading meant to increase your competency in something that you're uncomfortable on or unfamiliar with? So it's all about why you're reading. Figure out what is the goal of why you're reading and use that as a means to overcome your desire to go to sleep. So that might be helpful for you as well.
And all right, I'm going to share a personal secret, but you guys are really going to realize how hardcore I am, which I try not to share because I don't want anybody to know how exactly hardcore I am. So I always have a well-mounted pull-up bar hanging from the ceiling. And when I used to read before I hurt my foot, I would do 25 burpee pull-ups. It's a burpee, jump up to the bar, do a pull-up, jump back to the ground, do a burpee, do a pull-up. 25 burpee pull-ups every 15 pages or so. Two things happen. You get fit, you get strong, you get good cardio mobility and metabolic conditioning. And of course, you learn a lot and you retain it a lot, because when your heart rate's up and you're excited, you really learn. But that's what I did. But, don't do that without checking your doctor first. Some people, the thought of 25 burpee pull-ups could actually land them in the hospital. But with practice and training, you can be fit. But that's something I used to do.
And create some goals for yourself.
Yes.
Like being able to say, okay, well, I want to learn this, but I'm tired or I get bored. Create some expectations on when you're supposed to learn this information or get through these chapters. Promise yourself, I'll get through 15 pages or I'll get through 5 pages by the end of the day. And once, over and over again, you're going to be able to create that discipline. So it seems that the answer for you would be just create some goals for yourself to be able to ensure that you don't get sleepy. So, because when you read when you're sleepy, honestly, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, totally not worth it. It's like watching a movie. You had 2 glasses of wine and you can't even remember. You'll never remember the movie.
Yeah.
Well, I don't drink because 2 glasses of wine for me would literally just knock me out and make me unconscious. When I used to entertain clients all the time, I was able to do a little bit. Techie talk. How do you guys work all day and have so much energy? Well, personally, I love what I do. I get people hired. So see, I grew up kind of poor, and that's okay. And I worked hard, as many of you figured out. I'm not someone that's opposed to hard work. And when I got to my goals, it was so cool. And then I worked with so many other people of very limited means. I got them to their goals, and it was super exciting for me. So anytime I can make people's lives better, it's there. And techie talk, I used to come from medicine. And early in my career, I used to treat people that were sick and diseased and make them better. But if I can make people happier and healthier and have better lives, they can take better care of their health and they don't have to get sick. They can take better care of their families when they're there. So I love what I do, making people more successful.
And also, remember, we talk about be the energizer in the room.
Yeah.
So I like to talk. I like to share stories with my with the team, with Mike. This is my work family, if you will, and being able to talk to them, being able to, even though this is not reading related, but it's all internal. Being able to find a reason, a focus to meet goals through whatever energizes you, makes you focus. So I love to help people. I love working with these people. I enjoy, from a selfish standpoint, I enjoy and I live for those emails, texts that Mike, and there's a lot of times that I'm looking for that text that day or that evening when someone says I got hired. So I love hearing that. So that's what gives me the energy, is because no matter, I'm able to help people change their lives, and they may be 10, 20, 2,000 or 20,000 miles away from my house. And I'm able to meet them, know about them, share their goals with them, help them to realize what they want to do, and ultimately see the expression on their faces, be able to hear the backstories of where they came, like Robert Bob Welch, or like Delroy Batt, or like Daniel Bonsu, just to name a few, where they started, their hunger to learn more, their willingness to do whatever it took to get to where they are, and then to finally see that look of accomplishment, of disbelief, of not only they cleared their goal, they got an offer letter, and they're getting salaries they probably never thought that they could get.
Yeah.
And so that's what energizes us, is that's why I'm hyped. I'm always jumping up and down. There's so many people who would say, why are you so positive all the time? I'm like, well, what's the alternative? So that's me, and that's why I love being here with Mike and Chow and Leo and everyone and Tracy, and it's just true blessing and positivity to be around these people. So
oh wait, you talked about positivity. Chow, you're gonna kill me for this, but show yourself on screen for just 1 minute, Chow, please. Come on screen. Chow's an exceptional cloud architect, but okay, look, I see she's coming up on screen. I don't see her yet because the camera's off. So turn your camera on, Chow.
Oh, it didn't show up.
Yeah,
I think I had some internet connection, so.
Oh,
yeah, I don't have an internet connection. Put on that camera, Chow.
Oh, convenient, Chow. I love it. So this is us all day long. So
now she's hiding the internet on that camera too. So
I know she's laughing and smiling in the back.
It's so weird. I am actually on 2 computers, and I told Chris this earlier. I swear, I see me on StreamYard, but I cannot see me on YouTube.
Okay, there you are. Okay, now that Chow's here. Look, seriously, I want you to see this. Chow is an absolutely extraordinary cloud architect. Today, one day we did some internal training for our staff because we want to make sure our staff is always best. You should have seen the information she took down, the requirements she got. She gets stuff that everybody misses. Meticulousness, the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion. She's an asset to anybody. But you see, right now, she doesn't want to be on camera. That's not her. But see, look at it. She's doing it. Took a little coercion, but she's smiling. She's the energizer, the person that raises the energy in the room. That's the person that needs to be on your team. That's why she's on my team. I know Chow is going to leave the nest because she's an excellent cloud architect and go work at some major cloud provider or bank. But I know, but having people like Chow, and I only have people like Chow, whether it be Tracy or Eddie who's in Cameroon, or Anselm who's in Cameroon, or, Manuela who's in Colombia, or, Whether it's Alonzo or Chris. Well, Chris doesn't like to doesn't like to smile as much on camera, but Chris is amazing in every possible way. But everybody raises everybody else's energy, and I'm leaving people out now, like Leo, who's over there in Sao Paulo, and I know I'm leaving lots of people out, and but that's because I can't think of everybody on the fly, but they all matter. But that's the point. Look at Chow, that energizer. Chow, you're allowed to go back, hiding behind the camera, but I wanted people to see what I see. This is why we love Chow, as Tracy said in the chat box. And this is why energizers raise the energy. Now, if Chow was mean and angry, Alonzo and I would have less energy. So we're careful as leaders who we allow on the team.
It is a pleasure to be working alongside with you and the family, Mike. And I look forward to contribute more and helping more other people get cloud higher as well as myself. I look forward to make you really proud.
You
Really
make me proud every day, but we're going to have a big celebration when you do leave the nest, even though it's going to crush me because my child's going to be gone.
Thank you, Mike. And
It'll
I see
crush me,
everyone
but
later.
I'll be very excited. I was telling my wife that you're ready to get cloud hired, and Chow's going to be leaving us soon. And my wife was super excited for you, just like we all are. So, Chow, you can go back in hiding. You didn't back the scenes. Chow's producing this whole event, by the way, so she's not exactly hiding. Normally, Chris would do it and be here. So, he can't afford to be bouncing off the walls like we are when he does that. He's got to make sure that we do the right thing. Tonight, the inmates are running the asylum. And Alonzo and I are the inmates.
What's the Greek word of the Greek phrase about the cat and the rat, Mike?
Oh,
malis igataiki thafigi ipodiki horavi, which means as soon as the cat leaves, the rats dance. So we're dancing around tonight. We are blessed and lucky in ways you can't even understand to have Chris as our chief operating officer. But he makes the rules to make sure our operations are smooth. So tonight, we're free doing it with no rules. It's kind of fun. Let's bring in some questions. And we'll answer pretty much anything you want. Career things, reading things, I don't care. Up and up. Wow, that's some rough reading, Mike. Yeah, it really was. How did you get through it? Huge of a strategy reading through these books. Yes, I did burpee pull-ups, literally speaking, every 15 minutes through that book. I got to tell you, that was the best six-pack abs I had in my entire life when I was going through school because I worked out like crazy. I'd run sprints. I would do anything. Body weight squats, lunges, pull-ups, dips. So I always made sure I had equipment in my gym. No, in my old life, it got much more prettier. In my youth, it was my buddies because I had no money, putting cement on the end of a big metal bar that we were able to find somewhere. Yeah. I was lifting that, but I don't care. I'll find a way to do something somewhere all the time. To hard work, and I did a lot of workouts, but also mental toughness. I trained a lot of martial arts, and I'm very grateful for that experience. Yeah, because martial arts really taught me discipline. I know, Alonzo, you're there. When I was a kid, and I took Taekwondo, this guy named Kim made me do push-ups on my knuckles every time we didn't do something right, which for me, my movement wasn't so good. So I did a lot of penalty push-ups, and they hurt. And I learned to be better because, I didn't want it to hurt. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But, but discipline and toughness. We're going to have a mental toughness episode and how to become mentally tough.
Yes.
I even took some training from a SEAL commander that was on mental toughness training. I got to tell you, I recommend SEAL Fit to anybody. Mark Devine and Navy SEAL does mental toughness training. When I couldn't walk, I did the mental toughness training that didn't involve the crazy exercise. Helped me get through some pretty painful physical therapy.
Yeah, it's all about what your motivation is, whether it's reading or anything else. When it comes to reading, think about your motivation. Think about why you're doing it and think about the benefits of what will be waiting for you on the other side of that reading material. A lot of the reading material that I did got me into the cloud architect role. A lot of the reading that I did helped me to understand more about business leadership capabilities, which got me into the position that Mike wanted me to be in. So it's the pathway. I don't want to sound philosophical, but it is the pathway to enlightenment. When you're able to understand that reading, you know more about yourself, you know more about your environment, you know more about creating solutions instead of sitting there. Like the best analogy I can do is that if you don't read, how do you know where the exit is when there's a fire? Much like, life, it's like you can't get out of reading without losing a part of yourself, or even worse, becoming stagnated. So that's why reading is so important. It's so important to life. It's so important to this course, ensuring that you know what's expected of you. You did the research to find this. That took reading, or it took reading to get to YouTube. It took reading to understand what the subject matter was. It took reading to compare your notes, to get to the website, to read what was offered. So ensuring that the reading discipline continues with you being successful, it grounds you, it challenges you, and it creates more a competent professional, because you are willing to do what it takes, even though it may be unpleasant to you or unfamiliar. But reading is it's like reading. You need to read. You need to read everything you do. When you're motivated by hunger, you read the directions on the side of the box. So when you're motivated by education, or motivated by the desire to be a better professional, better personal person, better in relationships or whatever, reading is going to continually be the key towards your success.
Absolutely. Does reading the pictures count? Well, it depends. If they're very good figuring or infographics, that can be helpful. I know Lady Godiva, and Lady Godiva can take photos like you can't even imagine. I've actually seen her photos that she took with a cell phone, and they look better than what I'm doing with a professional camera and professional lenses. So, but yeah, reading the pictures does count if you're visual, but read the text around them. Speaking of leadership, Mike, do you offer any classes on leadership? We actually do. I know it's included in the architect program, but I have a friend that could really benefit it. So yes, we have a tech career accelerator program, and that's a leadership program really designed to help people. In the cloud architect program, we have a subset of that program, not the full program. That program's really designed to really help people move into management roles and leadership roles. So the Tech Career Accelerator program is a fantastic program. To put that together, I collaborated with other tech leaders. About 50 years tech leadership experience actually went into the development of that program with me and some incredibly great leaders. One that I've known for 20 years, one that I've seen to be one of the most effective leaders I've ever met. It was a big influence in that course. And Chow, you can pop a link to that in the chat box. Chow's like doing magic, coordinating us. We're like the inmates running the asylum, and she's behind the scenes. And even sometimes I make her come on screen, and she's still a good sport about it. How long for someone to become a cloud engineer if they have no prior background experience? I'm really interested in your course, but I don't know if it's geared for beginners. We assume everybody is a beginner. I'd say 50% of the people we get are certified, and we have to make sure they unlearn all the mistakes they were taught in certification. So it's often easier for beginners than when people have bad habits. And a lot of people have a lot of bad habits, but I get people with backgrounds. I get someone with 20 years experience, they get a job that's on the high end of the spectrum in terms of pay. When I've got someone with no experience, it's there. In our experience, it takes approximately 8 months from someone with no experience to get hired. Jennifer has a student of ours. She was a mental health tech. It took about 7 months until she got her first cloud architect job. Ivan Tamba had no experience, and it took him about 4 or 5 months to get his first cloud architect job, but he was exceptional and really worked out in ways I haven't seen. Daniel Bosu, who was selling shoes at Nordstrom, it took him about 7 months to get his first cloud architect job. But that's because he took 2 months off, did a certification, said, I'm ready, And then we asked him to do something in class and said, you got to forget all that and start all over. And he forgot it all. He listened to us and he started it all over and he became incredible. So I'd say it's about 8 months in our program to get people there. But that's, 8 months of really working, attending 3 classes a week or watching the classes plus doing the materials in the class, building the clouds like we do for our engineers and architects. Because we don't do silly labs like the kind we do in certification. Our architects build clouds. Our engineers build clouds out of nothing, out of scratch in our data center. Our engineers are working with Active Directory and things like that. Our engineers are writing Terraform scripts, real world stuff. Our engineers are being taught Linux at the Linux engineer level. So when our students get done and they're trained in leadership skills, soft skills, and communication skills, why? Because when you've got no experience, you've got to be better in every way. We teach you how to be better in every way. We teach the interview. We even teach salary negotiation. Just last week, when my students negotiated $20,000 more than the initial offer, because we're trying to produce the package. Because who would you hire? Someone with 20 years experience, or Chow? I'd hire Chow because she's capable, competent, and she's going to do the job and hunger for more and hunger for excellence. I hired Chow or somebody with 20 years experience any day of the week. I did, by the way, but I would do it again and again and again. So what I'm looking for is competence, and our students do really well in about 8 months. And it's pretty fun watching the cloud hires, isn't it, Elonzo?
It is. It is. That's one of the highlights. That's a part of the energizing piece for me, is to be able to help people. I love to see the end result of how they transition and transform and become the cloud architects and engineers that we see today.
And somebody said this program's only 4 months. I don't know. I don't know of any 4 month program, Elonzo. Do you?
No.
Our program is on someone that's got a good tech background. They can often do it in 4 months. Often. But we let people stay on our course for a whole year.
Right.
Graduation for us is hired. I'm not trying to sell a million courses. We're a boutique firm. I'm trying to get every one of our students hired. I'm not making a course like a certification provider, recording screen recorded content, never talking to people, never helping people. I'm trying to sell that thing. If somebody takes 8 months to get through our course until they're hired, they stay in our course until they're hired. If it takes 9 months to graduate, they take 9 months to graduate. We let people stay up to a whole year in our program because all I care is that the students get hired. And when they get hired, we party. And we party a lot around there.
Oh yeah, we definitely do. And we keep in mind that even though people may think it's 4 months, are you going to be competent then? Are you going to be able to go toe to toe with Mike when he challenges you on your competency, and you're going to be able to check all those boxes? And are you going to be fully capable of being able to sustain yourself, not only with the tech, but we're also thinking about the presentation skills, the business acumen, emotional intelligence. There's a multifaceted experience that happens here that may not just be condensed down to 4 months. So keep that in mind. Once you go through the self-paced coursing, there's still a lot of multifaceted requirements and qualitative experience that we're trying to teach you. So don't think that you're going to go through it and rush through it and say, boom, I'm off the assembly line as a fully capable architect. Remember that it takes more than just the tech, because it's not all about the tech. It's barely anything about the tech, but how you're going to be able to present to these C-suite and these business owners, and how you're going to be able to read the room, be able to effectively communicate what they're looking for in a business transformational facet. And are you going to be able to articulate that in the way that needs to happen for that business or for that position? So remember that it's more about the self-paced coursing and less about that and more about how you're going to retain that information and become competent across the board.
Okay, now, Chow, we're going to cherry pick this one because I just and do this first, and then we're going to go other things. Somebody said, what about reading an audiobook? So, Chow, bring that question up. How about listening to audiobooks? Does it count towards reading? No. Here's the thing: reading develops discipline, it develops strength, and it takes effort. Here, let's say you want to learn on macroeconomics. How are you going to listen to a supply and demand curve like that and look
Yeah.
at these curves? So, how are you going to look at calculations that matter? Here's just a basic book on macroeconomics they use in MBA programs. I probably have 30 of them around here, and I've read them all. Because where do you get your source of information? Do you get it from the character that's writing a book that's on the bestseller list? It's designed to sell to people that are not highly educated? Or do you get something that's designed to get you to your goals? When you read technical material, it's going to be dense. And if you don't know how to read it, you're not going to be able to do it. Now, I will tell you how I use audiobooks. Let's say during my MBA program, which was true. When I was reading, constant books, they're required reading. Now, constant textbook. Now, when I did my MBA, I was living in a place called Princeton, New Jersey, or right around there. And my office was One Penn Plaza in New York City. It was the only time in my career since 2001 I actually worked in an office. And I would drive from my house to New York City. And the reason I would drive is I had to go that evening after class, I'd have to go to Delaware or Widener University in Delaware County, which was basically Delaware, which was 100 miles away. So on the way to work, on my 2 to 3 hour drive in for 40 miles because of New York traffic, which was crazy, I'd listen to an audiobook. Now then, on the drive from New York to Delaware, I'd listen to the same audiobook. Then I'd drive back to Princeton, New Jersey, which was like 80 miles home. And guess what? I'd finish the audiobook. So literally speaking, I would go through 5 audiobooks a week. That did make me more educated. Yes, yes, yes. But listening, watching movies, reading the cliff notes, is not the substitute for movies. No, I did it in high school, admittedly. In high school, I took an English course, and they wanted to read me novels. I don't read novels. I don't read nonfiction. I don't read fiction. It's not interesting to me. I've got only a limited amount of time. There's an opportunity cost of my time. If I'm going to be reading and going to the effort, I'm going to be building my career or building my student's career, or helping a friend along the way. I'm going to learn from it. So I recommend that you spend more time reading and read authoritative sources of information, which are not going to be on your bestseller list.
No, please go ahead, Mike. I was just sharing something.
Half of the stuff that you see on the bestseller list, here's how it's written. Somebody interviews you and they write it for you. It's called your ghostwriter. So most of those bestseller books, half of them aren't even written by the people themselves, the experts. So it's whispered down the lane. Somebody interviews you and they write it for you. And they wrote it, not you. So I want to go to the authoritative source. And I got to read for that. Well, good question. Elonzo, you talk your strategy, I'll talk my strategy.
Okay.
So, Anakin, if I don't exercise, I am not happy. Now, I used to be able to do 4 hours of martial arts a day, which I did. Cisco was very accommodating. I'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and talk to some people in India, then talk to some people in England. It's around 9 to 11 every single day. I did Krav Maga. And then from 11:30 till about 7 o'clock at night, I would work. And then I would do 2 hours of Krav Maga. And then I'd work out for an hour. It'd be 10 o'clock at night. I'd return some emails, and I'd wake up the next morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's kind of what I did. And to get through it. So that kept me. And after my disability and not being able to walk for years, I practiced yoga. Now, it's not the same, but I practice yoga. I practice yoga in a 130-degree room. Makes it a little bit harder. And then when I'm done that yoga, I get into a 160-degree sauna and do some joint physical therapy exercises in there. And by the time I'm done, I'm too burned out to be angry and grumpy. It's like, I just got to work. How about you, Elonzo? What do you do?
I guess I'm asking what I'd like to know. I'd like to know the answer to things, and by reverse engineering and backtracking on what's causing my unhappiness. What is that issue? Are you addressing it? Are you ignoring it? If so, why? But even if you don't know, for me, I love to work out. I love martial arts. So, and I love all sorts of rigor. So that helps me to challenge myself but my overall, it's more of it's mental and it's physical. I try to get that workout, releases those endorphins, releases stress, so I can focus on other things. But for me personally, if I have a problem, I don't like it to sit. I don't like it to fester. I gotta address it. I gotta eliminate it. I gotta move it out of the way because it's counterproductive to what my goals are. So if there's a relationship issues with friends or my wife, we may have had a little small tiff, and we haven't had a chance to address it because she's very busy and I'm very busy. I got to stop what I'm doing, find out what that is, mend those fences, set up a time or a goal. So, like, okay, you know what? We had a tiff. Let's go and eat some dinner. Let's go ahead and forget about our day. Let's go ahead and do something pleasant. Give yourself something to look forward to. Eliminate those issues that are stealing your joy. Work out. Find something that you're really interested in, and use that as a disciplinary piece to continue. If you want to be less grumpy, do more of this. If this is keeping you from being happy, eliminate that. So it's all about looking at that source of your unhappiness and eliminating it.
Totally agree. Now, I was talking about yoga, which involves meditation, which calms the mind. Cognitive behavior therapy also calms the mind. But you know something? You know what saps so many people out about their energy and they never think about it? Procrastination.
That's a killer.
So when I went through my MBA program, look, people thought I'm nuts. Lots of times people think I'm nuts, but they can't argue with my results. How good are my results? Well, right now I'm writing a recommendation in French, meaning somebody in Cameroon is translating it for me, to someone in Tunisia that's getting their first cloud architect job, which is exciting to me. But, so find something that makes you happy. But in order to deal with life's ordinary stress, you need something. I like cognitive behavior therapy. I learned it from David Burns in my clinical rotations. SEALs use it to take a negative thought and interject it to a positive thought. If they use it, I figure, why not me? I use yoga, I use pranayama breathing, but find the source. But procrastination, here's what I learned. The rest of the class would wait till the end. And the whole time they were stressed. They're stressed, they're energetic, they're cranky, they're sad, they're miserable. I knew that if I put it off, I'd worry about it the whole time. Then I would not be a happy camper. What did I do? The first week of class, I wrote all my papers, all of them for the whole semester. And then I sat on them because I learned very smart. The first time I was not this smart. I wrote all my papers and turned them in the first week of the class. The professors were like motivated, but they sent them back to me to be rewritten. I reread them and I sent them back in and they sent them back to be rewritten. I'd rewrite them, they'd send it back in to be rewritten. And finally I'd come to the first thing I sent them in the first place and they were like, hey, work, Mike. But they didn't like the concept that, I did it in the first week. So I wrote all my documents in the first week and smooth through class, just smooth sailing. Don't procrastinate. If you're doing that, I promise you that'll sap your energy and make you cranky.
Yeah. You always have that in the back of your mind that it's waiting for you and you get more stressed, but you avoid it and it comes back to you. You get more stress. So it's definitely a vicious cycle.
Find the source and manage the stress. Adrian Giffick found a list of books. A list of books for what? I've read thousands. Now, if you're on our career program, there's a list of required reading for our students. And there's suggestions that we make inside of our course. But, it's not like a single list of books. Everything is purposeful. Is there a reading list in the Cloud Architect program? There sure is. There's vendor documentation. There's internet engineering task force documents that you need to understand. Look, there's about 500 hours of training in this program because we spend 3 classes live per week, which is 6 to 7 hours a week. So you figure you're there for 8 months. It's 7 times 4 is 28 times 8. So that's 200 hours right there. Many of our students go back and watch 200 and 300 hours of previous classes. We've got probably 50 to 100 hours of labs. We've got a small amount of reading. To me, it's small. To other people, it's there. But there sure is reading. We wrote a book for our students, and there's reading for that. There's lots of things that we do to make sure our students are successful. And here's the thing. You can't work as a cloud architect without reading. You're going to be given an RFP, request for pricing. Request for proposal, an RFQ, request for pricing or quote, an RFI, request for information. It's going to be hundreds of pages long. You're going to have to read it. You're going to have to read vendor documentation every single day. And if you don't read, you won't be working as a cloud architect. So we intentionally teach people how to read the kind of materials in the way they need to read it and extract the things they do. Because we want our architects hired. Now, architects get hired all the time, but we train them for the job. Heck, sometimes I stress my students out and make them interview under stress by standing on one foot and doing jumping jacks and things while they stand on one foot. I don't care what it is. And sometimes it gets much more stressful. But in an interview, you're stressed, right? Of course you are. So we train people exactly the way they would work. And that's why our students get hired every day. You want to talk about some reading, or did I cover that well, Elonzo? You're muted, though. Let's make sure Elonzo's not muted. Somebody?
Okay, I'm good. Okay, like the reading list, Techie Talk. Reading and it's your playbook when you're creating these documents or you're receiving the documents from the prospective client. They're basically saying, here I am. This is my problem. I'm trying to give you the raw reading material or the raw building blocks to help me solve my problem. And look at it this way for a motivator to reading. The more you read, the more you know. The more you know, the more you're able to come up with that plan, and the more plans and solutions you offer them that they're willing and willing to pay for, increases your bonus salary, increases your staying power, your value, your competency. So those are the motivations. It's kind of like a reverse Pareto, when 20% of the issues create 80% of the problems. If you put just forth that little bit of effort, imagine how much that will ramify and cascade into so many benefits for you as a professional. So think about that reading list and how it's going to enhance you as a great cloud architect.
Yes, great perspective. Child, go to whatever you feel is next.
Phoenix Project. I'm not into DevOps, but from what I understand about the Phoenix Project is that they're kind of they want to eliminate those silos in place of security measures. But I cannot speak on that. However, I believe that security is a major part of architecture. It is so valuable. No matter how well your architecture is built, how intricate, how detailed, how efficient, if the necessary security protocols are not up and running, you're spending millions, multi-million dollars on nothing, because it's going to be easy to infiltrate, easy to steal, easy to destroy, easy to dismember. So, to that point, I can't really elaborate on the Phoenix Project, but what I can say about security is that it's increasingly important across the board, especially with ransomware and all these other issues.
Okay, let's pull up Samir, because let's talk about a recipe for disaster and a path to be successful. Okay. So Samir is asking a basic question, and then he's getting responses, and his responses are putting him into the major danger zone. Any tips you can share on the 14 principles of Amazon in the interview process? First, Samir, the 14 principles that Amazon cares about are the same 14 principles that every business cares about. So it's not a tip about reading it, it's being them. It's learning how to be the right kind of leader. It's learning how to have the right attitude, the energy, enthusiasm, and passion. I've been teaching those same things for 20 years because all employers want that. So first, it's about knowing them. So Samir, if you're going to ask someone from Amazon, you've got a choice. You could ask someone like us, and we made a video on that, or you can ask someone that works for Amazon. So let's bring the rest of this, because next, Samir's now getting guidance from people that have never worked at Amazon. So if you get guidance from someone that's never had the job or doesn't know the job, Samir, I promise you're going to get to failure. Ask people that are successful. Don't just take any old information. Tonight, we talked about where to read from the right sources. And I said, don't go to somebody's personal blog. Go to Cisco. Go to Juniper. Go to AWS, go something here. And right here and now, you're asking questions, but it's not shortcuts. There's no shortcuts. You have to be these 14 little principles. That's not tips to pretend and fake you are. You have to be it.
Yeah.
As interviewers, I've done 6,000 interviews on people in my life. We're experts at detecting nonsense. We're experts at detecting somebody that watched an interview on tips. It's not about tips. It's having the right skills and the right characteristics to get there. Samir, we can train you, or you can get the right training somewhere. But it's about your emotional intelligence. So if you're not training with us, take an emotional intelligence course. It's about your executive presence. If you're not with us, get an executive presence course. It's about your leadership skills, and you need to have these skills that they're actually talking about. It's about your professional ethics, and your professional ethics are about being it, not learning for tips to characterize yourself a certain way. It's about having the competence to do the job so you can stand there confidently and prove your skills. It's not about tips. It's about being great. Look, I've coached people for 20 years, and the reason I'm so successful is I'm not giving people cheap tips. I'm teaching people how to be what the employer needs. I've never been interviewed and not gotten an offer. I did have one offer that got retracted because of COVID, but I had the offer first. But I've never not been interviewed because I was what the employer needed. If I tried to fake my way through an interview, and trust me, the people that have interviewed me, vice presidents, many of them, that were responsible for $2 and $3 billion of revenue, they have a detector of nonsense. I want you to be great, Samir. Focus on being better. Focus on being great. The world will come to you and flock to you. There's not a lot of great. There's millions of people that are looking for interview tips. But there's very few people that are willing to be great. Samir, be great. Be the best you can be. Be better than the rest. Fight hard to be great. The world will offer you things you've never dreamed about. But there's no shortcuts. There's no cheating. That's why it takes me 8 months to train a cloud architect. And they work hard throughout my program. It's not a quick fix. It's not just get a certification and look for some interview tips. You can try, and 2 years from now, you can figure out exactly how to be what they need, and you'll get hired. But I don't want you to waste 2 years. 2 years for the average person is $320,000 that's lost. Just focus on being great. Be so good that the world needs you. And I promise you'll have an amazing career. But look for shortcuts. It's just not going to get you there. Jindu, since joining Lookout, I know there's nothing like faking until you make it. Your experience so far has been learning how to become what you want to be. Exactly. I want you to be exactly what you want to be, because then you are that. Look at Robert Welch. He just got his first cloud security architect job. Believe me, he worked harder than half of the people you ever want to meet. He asked me, hey, Mike, at 60 years old, will anybody take me seriously? I said, of course they will. 2 weeks ago, Robert got his first job, and someone named Sig also got his first job, 61 and 63 years old. Why? I got to tell you right now, they were great, and anybody be lucky to have them. Just like I'm super lucky to have Chow, even though she doesn't like coming on camera in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. Lady Godiva, will taking the upcoming boot camp be enough to pass the AWS CO3? Well, sort of, and let me give you the answer. So the certification is based on a name of a service and the proprietary service and how to configure that service. We will teach you those proprietary name of the service, and you know what? There'll be labs. You know how to configure the service. So yes, we'll teach that. But our focus is not on brainwashing. Our focus is not to turn you into an AWS sales rep, which is what these things are designed to do, by teaching you proprietary things and saying, exciting, 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 exciting. When it's a virtual machine that was invented by VMware in 1999, and we talk about an EC2 instance, we're going to make sure you know what that virtual machine is because it's 20-year-old technology. When we talk about what kind of databases you use, we're going to tell you which ones you should use and which ones you should avoid. So our focus is providing real-world employable skills when we teach the certification. But yes, we will cover the entire curriculum of the Certified Solution Architect Associate and Professional. But I strongly recommend you get a practice exam. The reason I recommend a practice exam is this. The way vendors ask questions is really related to their branding and how effectively they can make you with someone that wants to promote their brand. It is exactly the opposite of what you need to do in your actual career. So I would say get a practice test. I'm friends with the CEO of Review and Prep. His name is Hemant Sharma. He's a wonderful person, a highly educated person with a big business background, and he hires people to make those AWS certification questions and answers. You don't get paid anything if you buy anything from him, but I like Hemant Sharma. I also recommend, on top of ours, not only reading our book, Lady Godiva, but also reading Andrew Brown from Exam Pro. He has an excellent certification-based course. He and I are friends. I recommend people looking for more certifications to get to Andrew Brown's product. It's amazing, and it's even free. He recommends people come to me for what I do. Highly, highly respect them. I would say that's your perfect course, and that will easily get you certified. It'll be nothing for you. Nothing for you. Good question. Let's go to the next one. Mike, for the leadership program, is there an overlap with the Cloud Architect classes? Temporarily, the answer is yes. At some point in the future, because we've not really promoted our leadership program, we're going to actually have different days. We may even have some university professors that have PhDs that have been teaching at business schools for decades, that have also been CEOs of other businesses coming in to help teach us, because we want to make that program even better. But for right now, it does overlap on the architect days, but the projects and the work are different. The things that people do are different, and it's going to be an incredible experience. God loves you. I really want to join your course, but you won't be able to attend the live sessions. Are they the key to the course? No. The key to the course is doing the work. God loves you. We'd love to work with you. Love that name, by the way. It sounds so awesome. I have a feeling I know where you're from. Are you Cameroonian, perchance, with that name? But here's the key. It's always better to be in class and participate in the live class. But I have people in Asia, people in India, people in Africa that have bought the basic class without the live classes, where they watch the recordings of live classes. And you know what? Many have been hired too. So realistically, the key is do what you can. Sometimes we've got challenges in our life. If you can't attend the live sessions, do the basic sessions. We're not going to rush you through. But if it takes you a year, I don't care. We're never going to take your content away. So realistically speaking, if it takes a year and a half, guess what? We may not be there to support you on Slack after a year, but you'll still have access to the materials. I want you hired. To me, it's all about getting hired. It's not a certification. Hired. And we'll do anything we can do to help you get there. God loves you. SN, do we suggest the course with the live lessons, or does it depend on your skill level? I always recommend the course with the live lessons if you can attend it, because in class, Elonzo was one of my students before I hired him. He did get a cloud job before I hired him, but I stole him from the cloud place that he was working from. And Elonzo, didn't I put you on spot in the class? Didn't I make you not only architect the things in class, but to present it back and sell it back to me like an architect? And you're muted. So let's get you to unmute. But didn't I do that?
Yeah, you did. He put the screws to me, period. Do not think you're going to just breeze through, go through the self-paced course, listen to a couple of videos, and do whatever you want. No, you're going to go through the rigor, okay? Expect to be challenged. Because when you think you know something and you present that to Mike saying, I know this, I know that, in a constructive and positively constructive criticism perspective, if you will, he's gonna come for you. He's gonna come for you. He's gonna ask you what you know, because he wants you prepared. He wants to. It's how can I say this? He's trying to find out. He's gonna check for those kinks in the armor, because he doesn't want to expose you. He wants to take those kinks, those holes in the armor, and he wants to fortify it. But if you are not having your camera on, if you're not taking some initiative, raising your hand, putting yourself out there to be challenged, how are you going to know how good you are? How are you going to know what things you need to be a little more fluid and a little more tighter on if you don't jump into class? There are no shortcuts, and don't take it personal that he's going to more or less constructively deconstruct what you think you know so that he can build you up into a better professional and a very, very competent cloud architect. So take it from me, it's not easy. It is a very rigorous and challenging course, and you will come out the better for it. And it's not about what we're telling you. Reach out to any of the people that have given us and shared their experiences and talked about them being cloud hired. Go to every last one of them and tell them, I have my doubts, or is Mike really the truth, and all this other stuff. We've got the people to back it. We have the people to substantiate that the project works, the course works.
You can ask
And
that in
Mike,
the chat box. Good point.
exactly. You can do it right now. Talk to, I believe Bob Welch is there. Talk to many people there, and they can support what we offer. And it's the real deal. And like I said, take it from me. It's not easy, and Mike will help you, but it's going to be a labor of love, and you got to just continue to do the work.
And this year, our average offers range between $120,000 and $287,000 per year. And that comes because I put people on the spot and I get them to do the job in class. Designers, convince me I need it. Tell me the business case. And, so I'm pretty intentional about doing things. And I do it at the people's levels. When someone thinks they're ready, I get a little harder because what's the interview going to be like?
Yeah.
I make sure that you're ready. So I prefer you to attend live classes because, for example, just last week, somebody at AWS reached out to me and I sent them through my students. This week, another cloud architect reached out to me and said, I need a good cloud architect. If I know somebody, I actually make the referral. This week, I made a referral for someone that's really special and a very capable cloud architect. And I have a feeling she's going to be working there.
Yeah. And something else, Mike, when it comes to a lot of people, when we're in class, they don't, and this is no knock, but this is honest assessment. You don't have your cameras on. And we understand if you're at work or whatever. However, if you have the opportunity to have your screen on and you're intentionally have the time dedicated to the course, turn your cameras on, because the more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities and the more time to strengthen your position, because ultimately we all want to have that lucrative cloud career, right? Or that lucrative cloud engineering career. That's why we're here, because you want to have your lives transformed. However, if you are too afraid or too hesitant to put your cameras on, you're delaying yourself. That's honest. That's very honest. So some of the times that I had my camera off, I'm kind of didn't want to be the first person to step out or whatever. And I was doing a disservice to myself. So I said, camera up, raising my hand, Mike, let me put myself out there. And sometimes I got chewed up, but it helped me to be stronger. So to my point, are you too afraid to step out there, or is that fear worth you delaying your success story, which breaks down to at least $500 a day because you won't turn your camera on and step out and make yourself known so that you can be a cloud architect? You got to really break that down and ask yourself, what is it costing me because I don't want to raise my hand? So it's just something for everyone to think about.
Yeah, and some people can attend live classes. They work late at night, so don't. They're still going to be successful. We're still going to be to fight. They're there to fight from. But I can't recommend people to employers that I don't know. And people ask me all over. Somebody sent me the most unethical and illegal thing the other day via text. They're like, Mike, I like your YouTube videos. I want to come to America. I need you to write a letter to the government for me why I have the skills to come to America. And I said, that's illegal and unethical. So, of course, the answer is no. And block the LinkedIn connection because I don't want to hear that again. But, the point is we want to help. And no matter what you will do good. But if you can be there and if you can talk and present in class, When you go on that interview, and we practice interview in live classes too, you've already been interviewed probably 15 times before you left my program. And you got critiqued after each interview, and you got better. That's what, being what the customer needs and knowing how to present them in the mind and thinking of the customer is there. But I encourage you to do whatever it takes to get you your next goal. I just want to see you cloud hired, SN. Just get cloud hired. Collins. If in the process of reading your head hurts and you set up a target to cover the page, what will you do? Collins. You know what I think? You know what your nickname is to me. So what would 007 do? He'd keep going until he wins. So I'd be like James Bond, Collins. You know why I think that of you? In a very respectful, incredible way. So James Bond would not quit until he reads the page. Read the page. Get the headache afterwards. You can always do some yoga, do some breathing, or take some Tylenol or Advil or whatever or you need. Imagine the rewards. Anakin, how do you deal with office politics, which you're always going to have, by the way, and problematic coworkers if they're above you? Well, everybody's a leader. But what's it about? What causes people to have problems with office politics and not? So in my career, Mike, this person's miserable. This person's problematic. This person's challenging. Let me go talk to them. Well, never had a problem with anybody. So here's the key. It's related to your emotional intelligence. It's related to your empathy. It's related to your soft skills and your communication skills. That's why, Anakin, many of my students that take my course, and I know you're brand new to the course, they tell me, hey, I'm getting along better with my wife, my parents. I got promoted at work. We had a student recently got promoted to VP while she was still in her program. She's like, it's all the soft skills, Mike. So focus on the soft skills, and more soft skills. People think I'm soft skills obsessed. I am. Here's the reason. People with higher soft skills earn on average 30+% more than those that don't focus on their soft skills. It's a high value target. Spend your time. Boomy, I'm able to find a routine. How do I get things done when I don't have a stable schedule? Well, I will tell you what my unstable schedule was, Boomy. So when I was in college, I grew up real poor. That's okay. And I had no financial assistance with college, so I had to work. Now, it may not sound like a lot, depending upon your ad, but it was a lot of money to me. My tuition was a little over $8,000 a year back in 1993. Now, when you were earning $8.50 per hour, that was 1,000 hours of work, pre-taxes, just to cover my tuition. So I had to work 1,400 hours just to cover the tuition. Then there was another $1,500 in medical books. So then there was that. And then I was married, of course, because I met the most wonderful woman in the world. So I was married and I had a supportive family. So I went to school from 7 to 3. 7 to 3. I worked from 3:30 to 11, Monday through Friday, as a paramedic. Most of the time we were on call. Sometimes we were lucky enough to get to sleep. And there's a reason I'm saying this. Then on Saturday and Sunday, I worked a 12-hour shift on Saturday and Sunday. So no time, right? Here's what I did. On the way to take somebody to the hospital, the ambulance ride was 15 minutes. I attended to the patient. 15 minutes back to the firehouse. Guess what? I was doing my homework, reading my books in the back end of an ambulance. Oh, critical care transport, 50 miles away. Good, 50 miles of reading on the way back. I stayed up in the middle of the night. I wrote my papers in the back of an ambulance. You name it, I did it. And I got through with great grades. And then I went to 2 graduate schools full-time at the same time while working full-time. Find a routine. If you don't have a routine because you work night shifts or swing shifts, when you figure out what you can do. When you get home from work, maybe you can read for 30 minutes or study for 30 minutes. When you wake up in the morning, maybe you can do another one. Maybe you got a lunch break at work that's 15 minutes. Read. Maybe you got a 30-minute lunch break. Read, study. So find time. It's amazing how hard you can work when you have no choice. Let's talk about Ivan Tamba, someone that I'm very proud of. He's a student of mine. He came to America from Cameroon at 15 years old. Found a family from that church to live with. Impressive guy. Worked after school every night at a restaurant. Drove 90 minutes per day back and forth to class from where he lives. He's taking my courses while driving. I don't recommend this, but he's doing it. He's waving, hey, it's Ivan, it's Ivan. He's participating in class. There were days where I don't know how he even kept his eyes open, but he did it. Well, 6 months later, with no background or experience in tech, he's working at AWS. And now he's going to come talk to all you guys. So, Boomy, I know it's hard. I'm not going to pretend it's easy for all. I've been through it myself. I did an MBA while working on the most critical and strategic voice RFPs in my life. I had to respond to a 400-page RFP, and I had to sell one of the most strategic unified communication deals in the world that was transformational to a bank for the industry at the time. And let me tell you, it was like just do stuff in the middle where I didn't work out for that month. It was pretty horrible. I felt sick as can be. I gained like 6 pounds, but it was part of life. Find the time, Boomy. I promise you, take the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion. Do the best you can. Nobody has it easy, I promise you. When you think it's easy, find somebody else that's got it a lot harder. And just remember, you can do it. I saw a gymnastics routine by a girl with no legs the other day. She did it all on her upper body. Blew me away. So I try to think, what would a lion do in the wilderness? Because I always thought lions are cool. If they injured their leg, they'd be hobbling on 3 legs. Boomy, do the best you can, work around what you can, and you are going to be awfully successful. CE code. Is the coding required in cloud engineering the same as software engineering? No. So a software engineer focuses on creating software. A cloud engineer focuses on building out cloud solutions. So a cloud engineer software is much more related to Python scripts to automate. It's much related to Bash shell scripts to automate. And it's much, much, much more related, for example, to Terraform infrastructure as code. So no, it's nowhere close to that. A software's whole life is coding. A cloud engineer's life may be 5% coding. So it's a totally different skill set. But it's a great question. Cal, we can bring in another one. Mike, I've been watching my CCNA workshop you did back in January. Will that be enough to be ready for the exam? Your experience and educations are not so great. So Anakin, yes, I've been teaching CCNA stuff and I worked for Cisco for a decade. In the beginning of this course, and every day in this course, I said something. I said, please read the official CCNA documentation written by, I think it's Wendell Odom. And I say that because I want you to read the manufacturer's documentation. Cisco made the tests and Cisco wrote the bugs. I worked at Cisco for a while. I trained some engineers and architects many times at Cisco on lots of things, but I recommend you read the book, the CCNA book. And guess what? The whole book is less than $100. And it's a good 2,000 pages of reading, 2,000 pages of valuable materials to truly make sure you got it. So I recommend you read the book. And again, this is a night talking about reading. I read the books page for page when I started my career because I didn't have any background. The only thing I knew was how to practice internal medicine. Believe me, it's not exactly cloud computing or networking. Does our program cover the Google Cloud and AWS? We cover all clouds. All clouds are the same, by the way. Now, if you went to buy a brick at the store, you could buy it at Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, Mr. Joey's Bricks at the corner store, Billy Bob's Bricks. I don't care. It's just a brick. And when we teach you the cloud, you understand the cloud. So if we're talking about object storage, whether it's Blob on Microsoft, cloud storage on Google, or S3 in AWS, it's the same tech. So we will teach you all of the clouds. You'll even design and build your own cloud from scratch. The primary clouds we focus on are AWS, Azure, and OpenStack, because they're the three main ones you're going to see in business. But yeah, we do lots of days with the Google Cloud. In fact, half of my team is working on a Google Cloud project right now. So yes, we cover all the clouds because 87% of customers use more than one cloud, which is why most of the services taught in cloud certifications are irrelevant because you can't use them in a multi-cloud environment. And to be a great cloud architect or cloud engineer, you must know multiple clouds. So of course we teach multiple clouds. We're not a certification course. We're a get the skills for the real job and get hired course. Hey, Mike, do you need to have a mastermind in networking to study in cloud architecture design? You need to have good knowledge of networking, not as a network architect. To be fair, you could spend 100 years in networking and still be learning. In fact, networking is so big, and people don't even realize it. I went through 75,000 pages of reading for routing and switching, meaning all routing and no switching, but they used to call it routing and switching. Wireless was not covered. That was another expertise. Security is another expertise in networking, network security. Unified communication is another network thing. And you could spend 50 years on each. So you don't need to be a mastermind in networking, but all clouds are nothing more than networks and data centers that you're renting out from somebody else. So you need to be good at networking. Now, I don't like to use certification as a concept, but I'd say CCNP level networking, Cisco Certified Network Professional, is about minimum. And all my students get that kind of grade of networking knowledge from me in our course because they need to know that much. Yes, you need to know networking. Not at the level as a network architect that lives, breathes, and sleeps networking, but what are you designing? Networking and data center stuff. And if you don't know the network, at least the following things in the network. BGP, ideally some interior gateway work, IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route summarization, route aggregation. What type of WAN do you use, whether it's a VPN or a private line or Ethernet over MPLS private line or software-defined networking or SASE, because you're going to be figuring this out and designing it. If you're not familiar with VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, and know it, DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy, if you're not going to know it, all of the use cases in that, and not just connecting to the internet, for example, you need to know. I mean, and just what I gave you right there, that's 15,000 pages of reading to know it right. So yeah, you got to know networking, but not to the level of that. And that's why we teach that much networking in our course. But if you're not with us, please make sure you learn those things. I just want you getting to your goals wherever you're at. Aya, how many weeks is our program? I'd say our program is about 8 months for the average person. Some people get through faster. Some people get through longer. We let you stay in the program for about up to a year because I just want you getting hard. But I'd say on average, it's about 8 months or so to get people to their goals. Style Plus in the Cloud Architect course. Does the course prepare you for the CISSP? The CISSP is a certification, and we prepare people to get hired, not paper certifications. Now, I will tell you that I've gotten a lot of cloud security architects hired, and a lot of my students have taken and passed the CISSP, and they told them what we taught them in class was 80% of the CISSP curriculum. I will tell you that the CISSP is a very easy test to pass. When I worked for a company, they sent 5,000 of us engineers for the course. We all passed the exam within 5 days with the right training. I'd say you will have no problem passing the exam if you read the official CISSP book from the manufacturer and take our class. It'll be nothing for you. And Aya, if you're here, is Aya like the female version of Io? Because that would be pretty cool. I have 5 Ios as students, and they're all wonderful, wonderful people. Just curious. In fact, one of the wonderful Ios literally sent me a text today. Hey, Mike, you're in Florida. Are you safe? Which, he's in Canada, but he's still thinking of me. He's such a great guy. Angelo, great topic, guys. Thank you, Angelo. And Angelo, if you're the Angelo I think you are, it's always good to see you.
Are there any more questions for us to answer? We love to answer them, and we want to make sure that everyone is fully satisfied and we're meeting the topic today about reading, sharing more information about the courses and how you can be successful as well. So
yeah, I've got a good 5 to 10 minutes before my wife kills me. So we've got 5 to 10 more minutes.
Okay. Looks like that's it, Mike.
Well, then my wife, who just brought back dinner, I won't hold her up. I don't like holding up our weight. So thank you all for being here. Please join me tomorrow. I'll be online answering any kind of career questions you want from 10 to 12 in the morning. I think I got that time right. Right, Elonzo?
Yep.
And on Thursday, join us for the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job. But if you want to be a cloud engineer, I'll tell you that too along the way. Register for the free AWS training, both as Certified Solution Architect Associate and the AWS Advanced Networking. And see you next time. Take care, everybody. Get cloud hired.
Take care, everyone.